Welcome to Inside the Firm, a podcast dedicated to small business owners and hosted by entrepreneurs, Alex Gore and Lance Cayko. Each week, they take you on their journey of how to start, run, and grow a business by bringing you inside their architecture and real estate development firm. Get a behind-the-scenes tour of how these business leaders manage their clients and foster company culture while creating new and innovative projects. And now your hosts, Alex Gore and Lance Cayko.
I'm back at it. Your host, Al Gore. I'm here with my mic guy.
Co-host.
Mic guy.
Mike guy. Mixer. What does Bill call it? Bill calls it like a...
Boom guy.
Boom, something like that.
Boom man. Lance Cayko.
Boom. That's what it is.
Yeah.
You're the boom guy. You just hold the mic. I just hold the mic for Al.
The whole time. You guys
Can you
can't
believe
see
it?
it, but he just has his hands holding the mic for me. And then he just sneaks in and says stuff. Speaking of sneaking in, you can sneak in 50% savings.
Wow.
50% savings by going to Dell.com/inside the firm. The thing that people are getting wrong, right? You need to use the user ID, which I'm going to give you, which is also at InsideTheFirmPodcast.com. Because if you aren't using this, it's not taking off the additional savings, right? So you can write this down if you're driving. Don't write this down. Memorize it using a memory palace and then recall it later, because that's what you can do, right? It's 530015704759. Probably won't remember that, but remember this. When you go to Dell.com/inside the firm, or let's say you call and you talk and you want to give them a big order, go to InsideTheFirmPodcast.com, grab that ID. I'm going to bold it so that you can get additional savings off the ones that you already get. You might think you're cool because you're getting some savings and you think you're awesome. You're missing out on the additional savings that you could get. So you're not as cool as you could be. So be cooler. That's my message for today.
And if you want your water hot, and let's say you're trying to make your specifications for your water hot, and you're trying to find like an instant electric hot water heater.
That's why he's the boom guy.
That's why I'm the boom guy. Then I would go to ARCAT.com and check out their awesome BIM library. So we continually update our building information modeling library because we that's what we do. We love Revit, and so I had one of our guys take a look at that, and I said, hey, I want an electric instant hot water heater put into our template. You can also go to RevitRocketship.com for that. But put it into our template because I wanted to see if because we've been getting a lot of requests from clients to make that happen. We have one in our new commercial unit. We have one in all the other commercial units. I mean, all the other condos that we built. And then we also have one at my house. They work fantastic. But in order to get that spec, you need to go to ARCAT.com. If you're looking for any other stuff, make that happen.
So the side point to that is that it's on our template, which we're always updating. And the side point to that is I know it's hard to transition a firm into Revit if you haven't. And one of the reasons why is because everyone's not on the same page. And everyone doesn't have the same level of training, and everyone isn't using the same system. So if you are thinking about transitioning to Revit, go to RevitRocketship.com. There you will get our whole template system of what we use in our firm. Plus you'll get training, and the training will start from the basics. And that's where you need to start. You need to start modeling basic shapes, then basic families, then go through a project. Now, you won't have time to go through a whole huge commercial project if that's what you're doing, but you get to go through a cabin. So then you get how the structures work, how the levels work, how everything works together. So go to RevitRocketship.com. Training from Lance and I trained a bunch of different professionals, students, and it's what we use in our own firm. So money back guarantee if you don't like it.
And if anybody has any hesitation to do it, just think of it this way: is all it takes is less than 2 days of your time to get RevitRocketship.com. Go there, learn the tutorials, and learn Revit. And I promise you, you will make up for those 2 days of lost revenue very quickly. I'm not going to tell you how much time it's going to take you to, because that's up to you and how you are with your work and everything. But I promise you, you will make up for it very quickly.
Yep. Well, and the reason I say this, I was just visiting a firm in the Houston area and asked them about what programs they use. And they tried to transition a couple times in the Revits, and they had a couple starts and stops. So that could be one reason why, right? If you don't have the same system, if everyone's not trained up, if they're not talking the same language, it's very hard. So if you are in that position, or know that your firm's in that position, or honestly, if if your firm isn't doing it for you, but you know it's coming because it's Revit, it is the future, and you should need to learn it because it's similar to people who only hand sketched and people who then decided that they're going to learn CAD. You might want to learn it for yourself so that you become a leader in your firm.
Got to know it. I've been in Revit. I watched Al. He was drafting something the other day. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Gazebo. Making it happen.
I was.
How was Houston? What
was
did you go
great.
to Houston for? Tell us about that. You just got back. I was surprised. Came to the office tomorrow. I was like, there's Al Gore.
Yep.
Did not expect him until noon. There he was. Look at him.
I was right there. So I went. I'm part of a group.
And what happened when we came, I'm going to interrupt him now. When he came back in, I stuck the boom right in his face.
Yeah. You're a great boom man. You're a great boom man. So I went there just briefly to look at a firm. I'm on the board of a company that merges firms together.
He's a big deal.
It's a huge deal. So I got a boom guy.
That's exactly what this episode should be called.
Yeah, boom man. Strikes again.
Keep going.
It's terrible. So we're looking at an acquisition and got a tour firm, talked to their principal, and then, discuss how that would work. And one thing we talked about and that they're doing well about is I think that this is relevant even if you aren't thinking about merging or leaving your firm, was who's going to replace you? Who's going to replace you, and do they have the tools to replace you, right? Did you train them? Do they know what your roles and responsibilities are? Do they have the relationships with the people that you have? So I think it's just so valuable because it can help your firm operate smoothly. And if you are in that position that's a little higher up, you will always, I think you should be able to find something to grow into, right? And it helps. So let's say you're not transitioning, but let's say you go on a vacation, right? That person's there to take over. Every time I have a major project, I always bring whoever's working on the project with me, because there's a lot of times I'm gone or doing something else or in Houston, and it just keeps flowing.
Meaning you bring them with you for meetings, etc. Yeah, keep
Yep.
them on. Yep, exactly. Keep them in the loop. Yeah.
So Houston was good. Even talked to...
And to be clear, F9 is not buying another firm, but Alex was part of the consultant group where this is going to happen.
Yep. I'm on the board of that group.
Yeah.
So that's on my flight there, I'm in the space. So
he's in space. Yeah.
So I just started talking to the guy to my left, and then I just prodded it out of him like what he does, and he's in aerospace. And then he invited me to his company, and I saw a bunch of cool stuff. Saw a command center.
Yeah, Houston, of course, right?
Yeah. But I was like, hey, I'm going to Houston. I wonder if the guy right next to me is in aerospace. And he was. And then I was flying back, and it was Southwest. So how much do you fly Southwest? Or
I've never flown Southwest. That's the one where they herd you like cattle, right? But it's cheaper. I get it.
That's boom mic thinking.
That's exactly what it is. That's why you're the boom mic guy.
It's boom mic level thinking. Okay. You gotta level up, man. So this is. I'll give you the hack. It's if you're flying alone with your family, whatever. So I'm in boarding group C or B, which is like one of the last boarding groups. Mm-hmm. But everyone wants either a window seat or an aisle seat. So I think I've flown 3 times in the last 3 months or something like that. And the first time, I walk past and there's seats in the middle seats, not the aisles, right? But I keep walking to the back and I go, I bet you no one's sitting up there, literally front row. So then the next time I fly, the front row that has all the leg space. I go, anyone sitting there? They go, no. So I sit there. So I'm like, this is the hack. If you want to sit in front, you sit in the middle.
Not first class.
No. But
front of coach?
Just right in the front. Then you don't have to wait literally 10 minutes to get the back seat. Then you don't have to wait 15 minutes to get off the plane, mm-hmm. And you'll probably end up in a middle seat anyways, right?
Yeah.
So on the way back, I asked the third row person, oh, can I have that middle seat? And they said, yeah, no one's sitting there. And it was a husband and wife. So she scooted over towards her husband. And then she's like, yeah, they said there was 20 empty seats. So we were just trying to get a seat in between us. And I just said, yep. Because those 20 empty seats are going to be in the middle. And I didn't want to say yeah, I'd rather sit in front in the middle than in back in the middle. So,
do you have any tips though for somebody if they do want to sell their firm? That's what I was hoping you were going to get at with this is like,
yes.
What are people on boards like you are serving on looking for if you're trying to sell your firm?
Yep. Found good foundation, right? And then also the things that I went over.
That, though? Unpeel that. Do you mean
yes?
Do you mean you have multiple? I mean, like, are you showing like so many years of revenue and just like that you don't have these big up and downs?
Yep. And I'll kind of peel away the onion of how it works. Is that you'll have revenue and you need to have a good amount of revenue. It doesn't have to be crazy. I mean, you don't have to be much above $1 million. You could be a little bit less depending on the year, right?
No kidding.
But your EBITDA, which is basically your profit after taxes and all that, then depending on how strong your firm is and what your future prospects are like, you can get 3 to 7 to possibly 9 times your EBITDA. But it depends on how it's set up.
Yeah.
More 3 to 5 is the range. 7 to 9 is a hard range. So let's say you have $200,000 profit, or let's just make it easy, $100,000 profit. Yeah. Then if you are maybe not, I want to say you'll be strong no matter what. If they're going to consider you, you could get $300,000, right? Or you could get $900,000. If you have $1 million profit, $9 million, right? Or $3 million, right? And how it will probably work most likely is that you'll have to sell or finance it, which means that the banks will only finance about 75% of it. So you will finance 30% of that as the owner, and 5% will go to the team and the group that is, putting this all together and fees and all this other things. And that means you'll get back that money, but it's on like a repay basis, right? But what I mean by a strong foundation, like, I don't think you'll be much considered unless, hey, we have repeat retail clients, and then we also have repeat healthcare clients, so that we're in 2 different segments. Maybe we have a construction arm, or maybe we have a corporate client that's been with us forever, so that we know. And then, okay, you have those. Mm-hmm. Now, if your leadership is selling, who is going to replace you? How are they going to replace you? Have you already set that up? And then identify those people. Because let's say this happens. I just emailed the team this morning.
Was it with this particular firm? Was it internal people that were going to replace them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Was that a discussion point on the board of like, is that a strength? I would think so.
I brought it up. Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. So I asked because there's a group of 7 leaders, mm-hmm. and I said, hey, that's great, but you're still here for a reason, right? Who are we going to promote to your spot? Is it going to be internal and external? And they said, this person, right? Let's call him James.
Yep.
Let's call him Mary. I don't care.
Yeah.
Mary's going to replace me. Okay. And then told me a little bit about Mary. But let's say, so now a initial proposal will go to them for, negotiating the amount. Let's say they accept that. Then there's a whole bunch of paperwork. And then I would say, now we need to go talk to Mary. Tell Mary what's going on. Tell Mary what your roles are, if she can fill that role, if she wants to, and set up some sort of monetary incentive for Mary to grow the firm also.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's good. I mean, honestly, what an interesting insight, because we technically we're kind of at that level now. We could sell the firm, right? Rebrand it, Gore Cayko. But then there's probably not to compete cause. Like, talk about that too.
So,
I mean, what is the catch? You're not just done, right?
So I asked him, why are you leaving the firm? What are you going to do afterwards? And then after hearing those answers, would you be okay with a non-compete clause? And he said, yes, he'd be okay with a non-compete clause. So what a good way if you wanted to just leave the state though, right? I mean, honestly, like, that's a way you could exit. Like, what if we said, we're done with Colorado, we're going to Texas where it's illegal to have zoning laws, which is awesome, in the counties, and we're going to practice down there. Sure. As long as, let's say you had Target as your client.
Yeah.
And then you'd be like, well, you can't take Target
Taco
Texas.
John's. Excuse me. Taco John's. I've always wanted to do Taco John after Taco John.
Have you repeatedly emailed them? Because you should set up a campaign.
Like, I emailed Bill Burr, and then he actually read my my email on his podcast, which was hilarious yesterday.
So this is just between me and you. So get on that Taco John account.
Nobody else is listening. Clearly. Cool. Would you, so so interesting. Like how you being on a board like that. I don't know. That's like I can't imagine there's a lot of people that get to go through that. Would you do it again? Like, would you just keep doing this? Like, is this a thing that like Al Gore wants to do now? Al Gore Consulting?
The same board is looking for more acquisitions, the same group. So I would be evaluating.
What is the strategy behind, like, so you hear this all the time, right? Like, is like, there's a firm up north, I won't name names, where we're from, up in North Dakota, and their idea was like they want to be the America's firm. Didn't they literally say that or something?
I think so. Yep.
Something like that. And they go around and they buy all these little firms out, don't they? And then they just conglomerate and become these sort of self-made monopolies.
So there's two ways of thinking about this. And I think I'm thinking slightly different than maybe the initial thought of when this entity was created. Because one was, hey, you start consolidating resources, blah, 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 you know. But my approach would be, you don't buy bad companies. You buy good to great companies. And you bring up in the staff someone to be a new leader. And all you do is maybe help, right? It's more of the Warren Buffett strategy. Like, okay, here is where this is going. And then here's where we can help. Like, I see opportunities in transitioning. I don't want to use their examples, but let's make one up. Let's say they make playground equipment, right? Okay, you guys aren't into teen, like there's actually getting like for older adults like these play zones, right?
We're doing one right now.
Okay, so there you go.
Remember that?
So I can see a clear line where let's expand that, right? Their reviews, they have great reputation. Let's get those online and let's get those on the website, right? So there's like external ways to pursue, and then there's internal ways to pursue, right? But a light hand, not a come in and try to change it. It's, hey, try to grow it from your core competencies.
Right, and that's why they want to buy great companies.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Got it.
Yep.
But I mean, is the idea that is the honest idea that they're trying to reduce competition and get more and more of the market share? Is it that simple? Is that the whole strategy behind this? Or is it just, or you know what I mean? I mean, there's obviously everybody wants to make money.
I think.
I don't even mean it in a sinister way.
No.
You know,
I think also let's say there's 2 or 3 companies, right? So there was one strategy that they were doing that I'm not going to divulge, but I go, oh, we could bring that to a couple other places. Cool. You know, just small things, because what if it's 3%? Mm-hmm. And
3% increase.
Yep.
Oh yeah, and if you're billing out where we're billing out, that's a lot of money.
Yep. So then, okay, now everyone in the group gets 3%, and then the next year, the other person, you realize, oh, they have something that could be 3%, you know, and then you just keep going like that.
Interesting. Cool. Well, I'm going to take the boom mic away from you now and put it in my face.
Good.
I have a recommendation for everybody to listen to, and it is, if you go Enoch Sears, The Business of Architecture podcast. I think we've been on it once before. We're actually going to be on it in a couple weeks. You should watch out for that episode. But I caught one of his most recent episodes. It's episode 316, and I highly recommend everybody, as soon as they're done listening to this episode, head over to Enoch's and take a look at the interview he did. Is called Leading a Global Design Practice with Tom Kundig. I've always been and so is Al, massive fan of Olson Kundig Architects. They're just, because they're just leaders in what they do. If you don't know who they are, you should at least go look at their website. They are published all over the place. They're an award-winning firm, and they do some of the coolest stuff because they make like movable architecture. And that's literally how we modeled. That was a lot of the inspiration for when we built the first 3 tiny houses that we did. This movable architecture and everything. But I wanted to talk to you, Al, and I sent you the episode when you were down in Houston, and there were some really interesting things that he had to say. And one of the things was, this is a direct quote, is the best time to join a firm is when it's struggling. Because when he partnered up, it sounded like maybe they were struggling. And it kind of reminded me of you and I, and like we made a firm when there was nothing and we were struggling.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
I love that advice. I think it has survivorship bias.
What do you mean?
So, hey, there's 50 billionaires. Do what those billionaires did. Maybe 400 people try to do what those 50 billionaires did.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Survivorship bias. Yeah.
So I think it's still good advice, but you could for sure join a struggling firm that has a tyrannical leader that's driving into the ground and won't let you implement ideas that could help it.
Yep.
So caveat. I would just insert that caveat into that.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah.
Yeah, but if you
know what,
that I think that probably
join
is,
a firm that has like a struggling firm that somehow you can make a difference in. If somehow you know that you can make a difference in, then you have an opportunity,
and that will allow you to do it.
Yeah,
like Alex was saying, I think that'd be the yeah. You can't just be a cog that's gonna gets inserted in this machine that's already not working, and then they won't allow you to cog.
Right,
so to speak.
Right. I think either he knew that and didn't expand on it, or he got lucky where he was able to join a firm that allowed for flexibility, and then all of a sudden, then he goes, oh, you should join a struggling firm.
Yep. The second piece of information that I thought was really, really great was he says he really emphasized how, first of all, I think everybody, this will blow your mind, is a little preview is they have 200, they have a staff of 200. That blew my mind because I thought they do residential, and everybody usually thinks that if you're going to do residential, you're probably going to be a smaller firm.
Like 12 to 30. Like 12 to 30 people, maybe.
Is what you were thinking going into that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. And we're at, if you count the construction, I think 10, 11 people. And we still do a ton of houses and stuff. And I even thought the same thing. Would we get past 12 and do a satellite and then not do houses anymore? So what he has to say, I was just like, this was brilliant, is residential architecture teaches you something that institutional architecture cannot teach you. It teaches you a sense of humanity. If you just go to large scale, you're totally missing at least the understanding of what it means to be human. Truly well done residential work is just as hard as institutional work, because he was giving the example of like some people go from college and they go right to institutional work and they miss the in between of residential work. And I could not agree more, because residential work, it's so personal. A lot of times you're a counselor in a couple, which is kind of it's a challenge. Sometimes it's fun. Sometimes it's like a really big struggle. But it just I think it humbles you, even from a dimensional standpoint of you are really figuring out some of the most efficient spaces. Whereas like an institutional building, you walk in some of them and they have these huge atriums. I feel like you maybe would be trying to fill up space more than anything, rather than trying to shrink space, because like a lot of times you're trying to make the most efficient space, just like that tiny house that I'm looking at, that we built, right? So for anybody who ever, if you're an architect and you're listening to this and you ever feel like demeaned a little bit by any other architects that that are just like, wow, you just do residential. Don't ever forget what I just read to you, because that, to me, I was just like, that's powerful. I mean, I just felt like completely empowered. And I actually text one of our friends who craps on residential architecture all the time.
I want to know which one. Maybe you'll write it down for me so I can see.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I'll write it down. But yeah, so and he goes, "I'll give it a listen." He made a joke about his own house.
I think I can guess who.
Yeah. So yeah, don't take that for granted. And then what I wanted to ask you, Al, is he had a pretty intriguing question: is architecture your business, or is your business architecture? And can you have a coherent business plan or system to then free yourself up for what you want to do as an architect?
Right.
And we've already talked about this before. And we have done that. And that's why we built the tiny house. That's what we built it next to. That's why we're sitting in the office that we built now.
Right.
That's why I think I was able to do my house, why you're going to be able to do your house eventually.
Yep. And then which way there's the architecture of your business, what does that mean to you? Or is your business architecture? Business architecture seems more like I'm a businessman who does architecture. Is that correct?
Is architecture your business, or is architecture your business, or is business your architecture? Business, yes, I think you're right. That's the way I read it. If business is your is your business architecture? See, no. If your business is architecture, then I think you're the artist. who is letting that completely drive the whole thing rather than is architecture your business. And for us, it really is architecture is your business, which is then freed up.
Right. I agree with
do.
you now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
The last one was you have to be patient, trustworthy, and generous. And what he was talking about with that one was staff. And so I think those three things are 100%. And I have failed at this. And then I'm trying to I've failed at this a few times, mainly when we're sending guys out to the field. And I'm like, you guys aren't moving fast enough. And I learned my lesson when one of our guys snapped back at us about a month ago. You might not even remember this. And he goes, well, I'm trying to be a craftsman. And I go, you're right. Okay. Do it the way you want to do it. And then the product turned out fabulous. And then the customer, or the client rather, the owner, was very happy with how their floor turned out, basically.
I thought the last probably 5 minutes had so much good nuggets, or were so powerful. And the two that I liked was, let's say you fail on a project or on a detail or with a customer or whatever. They said the worst thing you can do is pull back and make them feel isolated about it, right? So that's one step that they learned. I don't know if he said the hard way, but I think it's a powerful step, is that, okay, someone did something, and it messed up a client or a project. You have to engage rather than detach, because then it could spiral. And then the other thing too is that he said, no matter what, you're going to have projects that don't make a profit or go south or whatever. And he said they have about, it sounded like about 4 principals and 4 groups. You need to help out the other group. And we have like 2 groups here.
Because sometimes he was like, I do work with the other principals from time to time.
Right. We have like 2 groups here, but somehow that was instituted from the beginning. Like if I really need someone, or if you really need someone, we'll
cross-pollinate.
We'll cross-pollinate very easy. And then also like all the money is in one. So I don't know if they have it set up so that like the 4 principals have 4 different groups. And then like, I could see where that might cause some friction. Right. But that's what he was talking about. Be, patient, trustworthy, and generous. Trust the other people and then help out. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, it was reaffirming, because
it was reaffirming. I think that's what it was. Yeah, exactly. And that's what we'll probably wrap this whole segment up with. Was if you are about at your 10-year point in your career, I think this will be reaffirming for you, because that was one of his big points. Was he said he remembers he was like 38. He'd been practicing for about 10 years, and that's when he finally walked through one of his buildings, and he goes, all right, this is just about right. And he finally got to that point.
Just think, if you weren't those last 2, trustworthy and generous, think about the culture that would make. This is my wall. This is what's going on. You didn't help me last time. I'm not helping you. The quality and strength of their work is a reflection of the quality and strength of their culture.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one thing he kind of struggled with, was like how he's kind of like us in the sense where we're like, we think we have a great culture at F9. Everybody has a lot of fun. We just got back from our annual Friday lunch. Everybody had a great time. Now the guys are out and working, doing their thing. But he was like, I know we have a good culture. It's just, it got there organically, but it's hard to define what it even is. Does that make sense?
Well, because it might be as ephemeral as like, that last kind of summing up, like, hey, well, one, he says he interviews the clients even though they interview them, so they have great clients, right? And then who was it? Christy Hansen, when she was interviewed on the podcast, she said, we're not going to do projects that aren't fun. Mm-hmm. So like that one statement or idea just perseveres through their whole culture. That last statement probably perseveres through this whole culture. For us, what I thought it was, when I was talking to Mark outside, because we actually have like F9 principles, right? Yep. Be brilliant at the basics, simple but profound, take ownership, right? But if you remember what we said years ago after we got the BMMD shop, and we asked them what we did so well, and they said you were on time, you were professional, and in the end you over-delivered. There's this bigger project where there's a lot of projects where we're the ones on time.
Mm-hmm.
We're the ones who are professional, meaning like check all the boxes. And then in the end, like those things help us over-deliver. Like, so that through line that I constantly like push people to say, we're going to be the first ones done in the line, I think goes back 10 years ago to like us realizing, oh, we can get clients at a younger age.
And then having that reaffirmation right away. Yeah, for sure. Sweet. All right. I think it's time for Fugly Friday.
Yeah, fugly, fugly. Oh yeah. Fugly, fugly. Oh yeah. Fugly, fugly.
So for today's Fugly Friday, we have an issue in actually Lakewood where they put in a housing cap, and now a developer is suing Lakewood because they discontinued their project in their last city council meeting. It was basically saying that the project had ongoing litigation, and the developer said that there was no ongoing litigation whatsoever. And then when they tried to ask the Lakewood council members, they declined to comment. So there wasn't a ton behind why they just denied the project. They allowed 3 other ones to go through. It's for a couple 1,000 unit project.
And to give some background to it, this project was started a couple years ago because it takes a while to get through permitting. Then there was going to be a vote on a limit of how much the city can grow, which is 1%, which I have to repeat is lower than the birth rate. So that seems nuts to me. I have to repeat that. And this is 1,000 units. And they said, oh, this was started before. You don't have to do it. You don't have to worry about it. And all of a sudden it passed. And I'm like, oh, just kidding. You now dual apply to this.
Yes.
Which that's literally like you would get an email from the planner. Oh, I'm sorry. You actually do apply. Like this does apply to you. And that affects 2 years worth of works, millions of dollars of investment.
Yep.
And it was so many units that it would put off developing any other units for a couple years.
Yeah, because they only allow a certain number of these multifamily units.
Yep.
And that these projects have already taken up for 2020, 2021, and I think almost 2022. So you can't even get anything in until 2023.
Yeah.
Also kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Anyway, some people on Fugly were not too happy with it. Mainly people living in Lakewood. Let's see. My comment was great. It said, more NIMBYism will definitely keep people out and make things more affordable. Which we all know that's not true. But one lady in particular stood out when someone said, essentially the law is should be called Make Lakewood White Again. And she said, I really hate hearing this. I grew up in Lakewood and still live here. You clearly don't know Lakewood. Lakewood has a huge Hispanic population, becoming larger all the time. Bad development isn't about race, it's just bad development. I believe in affordable housing, but it doesn't have to be cheap and poorly planned. Parking is the biggest problem. Lakewood needs to have requirements for parking that are enforced rather than let the developer determine the amount. So we've done
There
projects,
are parking.
Yes.
Yes.
In Lakewood, and there are parking
Yeah.
restrictions.
Yep. It could be higher. I do kind of agree with that a little bit. Longmont's is too high. Lakewood is maybe too low. But they said this is for making it for white people only because it's...
So that was the first comment, and this lady's responding saying she hates people saying that. And I go to explain why he was saying make Lakewood white again.
Was it because... I mean, there's some probably assumptions that aren't correct.
Yes.
In here, and the assumptions are they're limiting the growth so that only I'm not saying this, but this is where only white people can afford it.
That's essentially what I explained. It's like it's not about Lakewood at the current moment. It'll be in the future for pushing it more towards that.
And that's an incorrect statement because people of all races can have any income. It doesn't, right?
Yeah. I think the main thing was that it kind of shows how some of these people voted for it for so short-sightedness and not really seeing how much it would affect in the future. They just wanted development to essentially stop, and this is the only thing they could vote on to do that. And they don't realize it's just going to hurt them so much down the road.
Well, This is it might not hurt them if they already have their land and people want to live there, so then their house values go up. But then you also can't complain about not having affordable housing. Or it still seems very un-American to me. It's like, hey, we've developed this area, now everyone else get out or don't come.
Yeah. It's like they're making an invisible border.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So that's cool. Is that the only article or was there another topic?
If we have time, there was another one.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny. So this one actually comes up a lot on Denver Fugly when somebody posts a house or something and they say, like, complain about it, and people are like, well, when it's done by actual architects, it'll be really good, not just anyone with a CAD design degree.
Yeah.
And I always comment back, every building these days in Denver has to be done by an actual architect.
Yeah.
And I'm using quotations there.
Yeah.
Because even residential projects, commercial projects, all need to be stamped by an actual architect. And some people just don't seem to understand that. They think it's just some developer coming in with CAD and just making whatever they want.
Right.
Which isn't necessarily true. Like, a lot of these pop tops are the homeowner themselves. And we get these projects, and sometimes, I mean, the design isn't the best, but that we're not determining that.
Right. It's owner directed a lot of times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, we could present something super cool within their budget, and they'll just be like, no, I want it this way. And you're like, okay,
Yep.
it is your house. I will do that. And then people who don't know that or aren't actual architects who go through the process just want to go and blame the architect for bad design.
Yep. And then some people I can hear saying, like, why would you do that? Why would you do what they say? So we propose good ideas. We propose suggestions for good ideas. We make it life, safety, health, and wellness. But it's literally their house.
Yeah.
It's literally their house. So we've had other architects quit because someone wanted to, like, move a window, right? And that's the extreme end. Or didn't want to do something that they wanted to do. Well, maybe they didn't want to do that because it was more expensive and they value their kids, paying for the kids' college more than this glass that you think is cool. Like, we're not in there. We're here to help facilitate. Obviously, it's different approaches, but that's the one that we take.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Any other funny comments on that one?
Let me see, just looking over them real quick.
Sometimes there's some real zingers, which are hilarious. But sometimes they're just being mean.
Yeah, everyone, it's kind of just an older mindset on the architect. That I think in their head, they're just thinking like Frank Lloyd Wright, he comes in and does whatever he wants. And that's what the owner gets, now it's kind of the opposite.
Yep. Well, thank you. And we will see you next week for another episode of Fugly Friday.
Hello, best friends. I hope you all had a great week this week. A reading. As architects, we are challenged to reveal certain characteristics of ourselves. Because for a few of us, our work exists on a mental plane that is personal for us and for our clients. For all, however, we are also otherwise expected to respond fluidly to divergent external calls that are sometimes less personal than we wish. The static exists in the realm between our recognition of the outside world's perception, certainly as a particular external expectations arise, and the developing persona that we choose to carefully put forth from within. I see this as a positive, as one does not necessarily need to pretend or sound through a false personality, but contrarily, this invention allows one to simply express parts of one's real personality selectively as the situation demands. The essential and distinct personas can be diverse as the social milieus in which the architect is involved. With the client, for example, the architect's role ranged from very empathetic and loving to more of a teacher or guide. Similarly, the role of the architect conforms to the situation. in engagements with other architects on the construction site, as an academic, as a star when presenting his or her work to the public, or as a talent to be trusted when vying for an important commission. Respectively, the architect can also volunteer as a confidant, a moderator, a collaborator, a business person, or at times a performer, a director, a champion, an iconoclast, and, expectedly, a revolutionary. These various personas are then ideally less empathized presentations of a singular role and more the personification of the openness inherent in the profession. As the personality of the architect evolves, the challenge is to balance the extremes of the diverse milieus with one's own values. While we expect a distinct personality in each architect, it is the openness and lightness in dealing with the demands of the persona that makes us genuine. Being present in the roles we are thrown into without losing the overarching ideal of the persona can prevent us from disengaging from the real. It is important to recognize that within the projection of one's professional personas, there exists the potential that one may possibly identify too closely with the mask or the role, most commonly the star role, and thus somehow become disconnected from one's inner self. In the end, this all influences the architect's ability to achieve a level of human realness and personal generosity that is essential to the making of emotionally moving space. A Delicate Refrain by Rick Joy from Tom Kundig Houses. Toodles!
I feel like that was that was kind of exactly how difficult it is to explain a good set of studio culture and maybe the better, or even a good building. You know, you hear this word, like there was a podcast called Archispeak, and I don't know why do you think we struggle to explain those two things?
Well, I think it's powerful to be clear, right? To say this is the way it is, but life is messy and life is nuanced. So in that example, he was trying to capture that nuance by what I said right before this was like, it was like a sentence within a sentence. So it was like a clarifying within a clarifying within a clarifying. So it was a little bit messy and it got to, maybe a deep truth. But there was a lot to it.
Yeah. That was deep. That was a deep one, Nick. That was a tough one. That was a tough one just to try to have a clear, coherent reaction to it.
It is Friday after lunch, also.
It is Friday after lunch. We did have giant plates of Mexican food. Yeah. Which were delicious. But man, are we?
There should have been a warning. Don't read this. Don't listen to this after eating giant plates of Mexican food on a Friday.
Yeah. There you go. Okay. Well, I think it's time for A.R.E. Jeopardy, and so let's bring in the crew.
Here we go. Question number 1. According to IBC section 1205, the minimum net glazing area shall not be less than blank percentage of the floor area of the room served. Okay. A, 2%. B, 5%. C, 3%. D, 8%. The minimum net glazed area shall not be less than blank percent of the floor area of the room served. A, 2%. B, 5%. 3%. D, 8%. And the correct answer is D, 8%. And we had A, D, C, B. All right.
Don't ever forget that.
8%.
It's a weird one. We got called out on it before a long time ago. But yeah.
Yeah. According to IBC section 1203.5.1, The operable area of openings to the windows shall not be less than blank % of the floor area being ventilated. A, 4%. B, 2%. C, 6%. D, 8%.
What do we got? What do
So
we
if
got?
you're ventilating that room, what percentage of the floor area should that ventilation be? Doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo. The answer is a 4%. 4%. Hey, three people got it right. Look at there we go.
All right. Number 3, what is a graphic representation of the value of the bending moment at any point along a beam known as A, graphic diagram, B, structural diagram, C, moment diagram, D, bending diagram? Do you need it repeated? Yeah, that's a weird one. What is a graphic representation of the value of the bending moment at any point along a beam known as A, graphic diagram, B, structural diagram, C, moment diagram, D, bending diagram?
That question was like that.
Nick's reading today. Yeah. All right. We got, so the correct answer is moment diagram, which is C.
Wow, a lot of people doing well.
A lot of people doing well. Good thing we got that tiebreaker coming up. Number 4, what is a short rafter between hip rafter and eave or between valley and ridge known as? A, gym rafter, B, jack rafter, C, bridge rafter, D, rafty boy. Haven't thrown that one out in a while. The question again is number 4, what is a short rafter between hip rafter and eave or between valley and ridge known as? A, gym rafter, B, jack rafter, C, bridge rafter, D, rafty boy. What do we got? What do we got? The correct answer, just so you know, is jack rafter.
Which is what letter?
B. 3 again. Okay. What's the score at? So somebody got 4,
3,
3.
3.
It's a sweep. Call that a hack trick. All right,
There
hockey
you
guy.
go.
All right.
All right, that is it. So if you like this podcast, please do what our boom mic guy says and leave us a 4 or 5-star review. Probably
5-star.
5-star review. Or go to RevitRocketship.com where you can learn Revit. And I think that is it for us.
I only have one small request, and that is send us some more listener questions, because when we got bombarded one with the last week with 4 of them, and then we had none this week. So send us some, and we'll be happy to answer on it.